Welcome to our hackerspace progress bar, which is a very bad name to search on the internet. All of you probably read some licenses which then you had no idea what they mean and you didn't really read it, and which is quite annoying with software, but with data it's even more annoying, because what do we want? We want free data. We want open data. We want the data to be free and not to be behind the bars. So we want open data and free data. So that's why the project openstreetmap started, which has the goal to create a free wiki map of the world, which has nice goals. And I will focus on the part that is using the data in unexpected ways. It's a free wiki map of the world. The free is the license, which lets you do basically anything with the data. It's a wiki map, so anybody can edit. It's a map, and the focus is the world so far. So how does it look? If we went to the football in South Africa some time ago, first time for us, this would be the stadium. So this is how it looks in South Africa. This is a map of somewhere in Germany, with different layers, different colors, which look different on this beamer. This is a nice service from CloudMate, which makes different views of the same locality. So it can be dark, it can be white, it can be whichever color you like. So it's quite easy to make different views of some other cities in Gaza, which is quite complicated to get the data in other providers. It's also possible to use Azbuka there, to have a dark map if you prefer, to have a map of some campus, which you can have all the names visible. So it's possible to change the colors very much. Yeah. It's even possible to change the information there, because sometimes you just get too much information and you don't know what to search for. So you can go to Vatican, Venice in a different view. You can go to Bratislava and have the public transport, which is yet another colors of the same map. You can have a 3D map, which was created by some Czech guy who made a 3D map of the Czech Republic. You can use the data to have nice rendering for a flight simulator. So if you want to fly over your own city, all you have to do is just edit the data a little bit and then have it. The presentation will be online, so if you want proper colors, you can see it on the internet. You can then have also a map focused for marine sea travelers with all these thingies which otherwise would make them crash. So it's possible to use it also for other purposes. You can have a night map. Why does there need to be a name of the streets on the map? You can have an orienteering map for just walking around the city without the names. You can have a cycling map with cycle routes. For skiing, there's a different possibility to view it. Hiking. This is high Tatras and many steep hills there. This is here in Bratislava, and you can also calculate how much time it should take to go from one point to another with walking. You can have the map of Europe in proper language, so Paris is Paris. and London is London. So you can do whatever you want. If you want to put it on the website, on your website, you just use the open layers library, make some basic HTML, which you include this file, make some JavaScript library, and this is the view for including the map. And this is a very basic style. You just start the map, you add into the map a layer from OSM. You can load a different layer. You center it, make a zoom, and that's it. You have on your website map like this. To change the background color, you just go to the resources, tile resources, change the URL for something different, and you have your own map. Or render your own tiles with different visualization, which you like. Looks so much nicer on the computer. This is a printed map of Haiti earthquake. There was a special export every 5 minutes, I think. So you can print the map. There's some book. This is some pillows which you can order. Your custom pillows. Some other map. You can make map of the city for city lights, or just tram lines, and have a little map where what is the surrounding of the city. Here is the website. It's quite complicated to make a nice map. It takes some effort, but all you do is just create a SVG image and then process it when it works. But you shouldn't forget attribution, which is the crucial part of using OpenStreetMap data. OpenStreetMap started in 2004. There were some, every year something new happened. Now it's more than 500,000 contributors. Current volume, which I had to update since October, 550,000 contributors, 1 billion something nodes, a lot of ways, a lot of relations, and the database is around 20 gigabytes. In October it was only 18, so every month it is a lot harder to process.
It's only Slovak maps. 20 gigabytes.
The whole world. Zipped version. Unzipped is 2 terabytes or 20 terabytes, I don't know. So how the database looks like? There are nodes, ways and relations. So this is a footway. Here is a river, and here is some fort. So every node has the location and some attributes. So this one is that it's called a fort. And then you can cross the river. This footway is here. It is a connection of several nodes, and it has, and we say it's a path. And then there is a relation on top of it, which says that it's this color, red hiking trail with number 0701C, and it goes from there to there. And another relation is boundary. There's this one, which is a boundary between of these two districts. So that's the basics of the database structure. And if we have a nice data, we can also do some navigation to go from point A to point B. I think this is the longest route that they managed to calculate without slowing the computer down. It's all cars. But you can also use the navigation for something other than cars, like bicycle, like footways, which you can calculate the distance, how to go from point A to point B without seeing a map, which is quite handy sometimes. So it's all you have to do is just take away the routes that have a pub on the way. Of course, then you have to decide what a pub is. But you can end up that it's not possible. Or you can make some navigation for bicycle, which is a different calibration. There are many libraries, basically summed up here. These three are the most common ones. All you have to do is just load the database and make a nice user interface. The problems with routing is that the data are sometimes wrong. Sometimes the roads are not tagged correctly, sometimes they are not correctly connected. There are some syntactic problems with it, or one very dead-end street which is quite complicated to route on. Then there is the problem of creating proper profiles, because the car and the boat and the pedestrian have different needs for routing. If your router wants to be very good, you should count the delays. So the stop sign adds 20 seconds. The left turn, if you go bicycle on stairs, which is possible, but it's very slow. You should, at least on bicycle, calculate whether it's uphill, downhill, whether there is a good wind or not, whether the route is straight with a car or it's very curvy, which then you have to go at different speed. If it's a long trip, you should add some stops in between, because you cannot go 20 hours. If you want to have good navigation, and it should say like, turn left or wherever, which is quite complicated to make, but the libraries have it already. And of course the speed of your computer, so that the route is displayed not after 20 minutes, but after 2 seconds. We can do searching. So if we want to search for progress bar, we just go to openstreetmap and search for progress bar. Or we can search for hackerspace, which then gives many answers. Or we can actually search for something you wouldn't dare to search. We have the new bridge between Divinska and Wolfenstahl, I think.
Yeah,
This is the Chuck Norris bridge.
do you know the story about the Chuck Norris bridge?
Yeah, no, they want to build the bridge, and they started the online questionnaire that how it should be named.
And it's between Slovakia and Austria.
And Chuck Norris is winning at this time.
Why not Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Because Chuck Norris, I don't know why, because Chuck Norris doesn't need bridges. So yeah.
But bridges do need Chuck Norris.
Yes. And the story with this is, yesterday I edited the name, the proposed name for this bridge, and in the search it appeared. Actually, this screenshot is done like 5 minutes after I edited the name. So it's not there. It's there for 2 weeks, and it takes 2 weeks to process. This is 5 minutes after I made the name. So the engine is really fast. Oh, and since I am Narcissus, I search for myself all the time. I have many churches. And some cities as well. And if you want to go to Bratislava, you might end up somewhere in Bulgaria. But the first one is the proper one. Searching, the most common one is nominative. It's a huge PostGIS database structures with triggers, before, after triggers, and it's a horrible mess of. It's quite complicated, but it works somehow. It's on PostGIS with PHP front end. It's, if you want to index the world, you need a disk of 1 terabyte more or less, and Actually, I don't know how long it takes to index the database, because after 2 weeks I stopped. So it's, but if you go for just for one country, if it's not Germany,
Not US.
US is quite small compared to Germany.
Really?
Yeah. I think Germany is like 20% of the database.
Oh.
So then it's quite fast. If you want to make your custom search, it's quite complicated.
Straight lines, so it's not so many people.
You can use some SQLite, but you have to take into account the similarity, what you are searching, but also the geographical proximity. So if you are somewhere in Argentina and you search for Bratislava, the Bratislava in Argentina probably should be first, maybe. Or if you are searching for the main street in a city, it should bring the proper main street, not the one that is longest by chance. Then there is the importance. Probably even in Argentina, the city of Bratislava is more important than the village there. If you want to search for a hotel in Bratislava, which is very different from when you try to search in China for a hotel. So a Chinese person tries to search for a hotel in Bratislava, he should, after typing whatever this is, he should get the proper name. Or, of course, when you are close to some hotel Bratislava, which is in the city of Prague, then you search for Bratislava, what should be the result? But it's a problem of calibration. The engine part is not that hard. If you want to go to mobile phones, there is a list on this website for each platform and what they can do. For the most common ones are these. Probably there are others which don't start with the letter M, but I don't use them. So if you just on your phone in the market or store search for the word OpenStreetMap, it will bring up 50 applications, which most of them work. But it really depends. So it's possible to do online maps, printed maps, routing, navigation, mobile phones, customized visuals or anything. But the most problem... Please do edit the data. It's the wiki map of the world, so if you can edit the data, it would be really nice. At this website there is the guide how to do it. Basically you collect the data somehow, you go with your GPS or you take a printed map and do the numbers of the houses and the new pubs and everything. You upload it, creating the OSN database label, and then use it. Usually it takes several minutes to hours to use it on all the platforms. The common programs are Potlatch, which is a Flash editor. When you press the edit button on OpenStreetMap, Josom is a Java editor, which is my favorite one. Mercator, which is very similar but written in C. Awesome to Go, which is for mobile phones. There is also some Mapzen for mobile phones, many online tools, but there is an open API, so you can create your own editor quite easily actually. Open questions, it's just use the data, please. If many people use it, the database gets better, and you can, if you are a good programmer and enjoy programming, you can improve anything. Like the routing can be always faster, the searching can be better, the rendering can be faster, nicer, mobile phones applications can be better, more usable, printing, which is a problem, the data itself, correction mechanisms, and automatic correction.
What about that first question?
No, I don't know why. If you know the answer,
и потом нужно прикладать на родный язык.
So, that's my presentation and I'm
Follow automatically.
looking forward to your questions.
Okay, I have a question. The stuff 3D stuff you showed, that how it was built?
Overlay.
This one, there is... This one is built like the other ones, like the same as this one. You just render the data and you put some ISO. You take from the database. There is a tag for the height of the building, for the basement, and you can put the color of the roof and the type of the roof and everything, and you just do it. Render the tiles with different, like basically it's the same as rendering with different color. And then the big part was to hack the JavaScript libraries so that it works properly, because it's some isometric geometry and they are not square. This one is from a flight simulator, and they took also the data for the map, and in the database they put the color of the building, the type of the roof, the number of floors, the height in meters, and also they put like the standardized number of the building, which they had some pre-rendered in their engine. So this is a real 3D engine. Just the data is somehow preprocessed and work, but I have no idea. This is basically normal flight simulator.
Yeah. And it was entered manually, the height data and number of floors and stuff, or automatically some other way.
It's in the database. It depends on which city the data is collected properly. So they've put some cities that work, and if you add it at your city, it will work. But there is the problem of the data and the rendering.
What the people edit, it's there. If they don't edit, it's not there.
Yeah.
That's the simple thing. So basically it was all done kind of manually.
Now you can do a mass import. There is always problem with imports. So.
Sorry, I just went out there. Maybe you said that. There are some layers that you can turn on and off. That was what you were showing at the beginning. Or is it not layers?
No, there is the database which doesn't have layers.
Okay. But at the beginning you were showing different pictures with different display settings. Once it was black, and you could turn off the labels and.
More or less, it depends how you render it. So you do your own rendering, and you say you don't need tank stations there because it's a cycle map, so you don't show it. And on the client side, you can basically choose which server you connect. You get the tiles from.
But what kind of data? Can you input all kinds of data or points of interest or whatever you want? Because what I want to ask is, can you have like something on the map that is not real, that is not really there, but it's maybe some plan how it's going to be in the future, or how it was in the past, or like non-real stuff.
Like one of the non-real stuff is the boundaries of the space. Because they don't really exist. This is the basic list of what is the common features. It's still loading. So you can put the historic is castles and or stuff like that. But there is basically you should consult this website and see how to fit in there. Because there is all the boys.
Yeah, but these are real things that are really on the place. But my question is, if you can do something that is
Like your own map.
descriptive.
Your own map, yeah?
Your own map that can, more or less. Like overlay the map with your own map that doesn't necessarily reflect the reality, but you should keep it separate so that it doesn't confuse anyone. you should be very specific that it's not real. Is it ready for this, or you should have your own
There is
stuff?
the easy solution is to make your own tagging scheme in the database, which nobody will understand and nobody will render it.
Okay.
Shouldn't really happen, or you can make all the software is open source, so you can make your own copy
Yeah.
and add it at your thing. Then you have the problem of matching the data if you decide to. Or you can just at the rendering point you just take from two databases.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But
Which
it's not-
licenses are the problem.
Uh-huh.
But if your data is open, it's not the issue. But basically this is the short list of what is possible to put there. There is some description.
I think for Google Maps you can use the API for adding your own whatever you want to render on top of the map.
Yes, you can do that via JavaScript.
It's open source, you can program it.
Yeah. I personally cannot.
Like the easiest one, if you are interested in pubs, so you just add all the pubs in the database with common scheme. You put the opening hours, which beers they serve, what food is there, etc. All these 50 million tags there on a given pub, and you just render the pubs.
And there is actually
Can you, for example, okay,
Where's
now
your
I have a
copy?
pub on this
Where's
corner, and from normal human behaving, you can hear the screaming like for 50 meters. And can you show something like this on the map, like a circle, which then shows, okay, this area is covered by drunken people noise?
You can take the data from the pub, from OpenStreetMap, the database of the pubs with opening hours. You can then do some post-processing and somehow guess where the drunk people are and then just display the map.
You can use the existing data probably for rendering this.
For this one, okay, no.
There were some applications like what is the some ISO distance, like from this point you have the colors that how long it takes to get there. So which is like quite common for walking, but if you take into account the public transport, it's not circles, it's very different shape. And it's data from OpenStreetMap which are somehow processed, analyzed, etc. and displayed in an unexpected way. But if you want to create your own wild plans of making the city differently and don't do it, but like the Chuck Norris Bridge, it's a proposed bridge which is already under construction, so it's there. It's just text that it's construction still. That's why it was the blue lines, not normal lines.
I think the point of this is to make data which is kind of universal, not for everyone. I think it doesn't make sense to make own stuff like that.
It depends.
When one person uses the map, like what's the purpose?
For example, when you want to save your running routes or so, your personal stuff on the maps. So it's good to have an API for this.
You save it in your own database and then just render it on the top.
Yeah, but because then you need this really beefy machine to hold the maps and so. Or don't?
No.
You just probably add your own layer. On your computer you only have your layer. That's how I understand that.
Well, you put this on your small HTTP server, just a simple HTML. You load, you can make a copy of these JavaScripts and stuff. And then in this function, all you do is, like this one, it loads from the OpenStreetMap server on the tile, so you don't need. You add a layer, and then you create double layers, a different layer, which will display a GPX file.
So I can see my own route there.
Yes, and you just store the GPX files at your server as files, all 20 of them. So actually you don't need a database.
So this is probably also an answer for my question.
Yeah.
If you do some custom data, you just store it in your own files and it just combines it to database.
Yeah. But then you lose.
But you don't make your data public to everyone to use.
Which then you lose all the mobile applications and everything.
Oh yeah, that's
Because if you put the pubs in there, in every application the pubs are. On the bicycle stands or whatever. Or the Wi-Fi points. There is always the question like what should be and what shouldn't be, which is a very thin line.
But that's why, because there is not enough storage space or not enough.
I think
Gigabytes
the
of-
thing is what you said, that you should make a universal database of stuff. So some of these things are not universal for everyone to use, but because why would they? So you should keep probably the data as universal as possible. Am I right?
Yeah. Like you don't tag it, you tag it as a pub, not as an area of camping.
Then it would be really nice to have the possibility to switch to different database combinations.
There is some like I don't know, administrator or operator who, or every user or contributor can edit data. Yeah? There is nothing like some correction process. You know,
No moderation.
there may be.
There is no moderator, but you can watch your area for edits. But I think there will be a need for moderator in the future.
And who is hosting this, or who started that?
OpenStreetMap Foundation.
But it's an existing place or authority that keeps the data.
The OpenStreetMap Foundation pays for the servers, the main ones, main 20 ones, and has the domain ones. But all these other are, this is actually a Wikipedia server, this is our server, our NGO, it's also our...
So there are copies of the database on the it's synchronized. It's like,
We just download every day a new version. We make edits to the international one, and every day we download it. Or every minute.
How big are tiles for Slovakia?
This hiking until Zoom 16 is 30 gigabytes. But we need to go until Zoom 78 now.
Until Zoom 78?
Zoom 16, which is not really, in the city is not good. But if we go to Zoom 17, it's like times 4. So it will be 120 gigabytes.
this is all vector data. This is not bitmap.
This is bitmap from vector.
Yeah, it's rendered to bitmap. But the way it's stored is vector data.
Yes, in the database is vector, then it takes 2 days to render Slovakia on 20 machines we have.
So it's pre-rendered.
Yeah.
Actually, I tried to run that on my notebook and it was not a fun, really. It was too hard to get it running. And when I tried to look on the web, it was like a minute to render tiles.
But usually you don't need to render the whole world on your laptop.
Yeah.
You need to render just a small part of it, like
Yes.
with villager, city.
And it was fucking slow.
Well, maybe you can. Well, depends on the renderer. It depends on software and hardware as well.
Yeah.
But there are some many complicated issues, like for example, you want to render the forest, but if you render this part, you have to get all the boundaries of the forest to get whether it should be green, and you should check whether it's not in the middle of the ocean, which is quite in the database point of view, it's quite complicated to see if you are in the ocean or in a forest or in a city. So it's, and of course it's the best if you have the database in your arms.
Yes, this. You need to have at least 100 gigabytes, I suppose.
Thank you for your attention.